Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in this, the first debate of the Union's bicentenary year. Your work and the work of the officers and the whole committee has been truly non-stop, and we can look forward to a fantastic term of events as a result. And what a term it is to be having this debate. This House believes the future is post-gender. As well as International Women's Day, this term sees the 60th anniversary of women's membership of the Union, showing how far we have come since 1823, and also how much the world itself has changed. The very fact that I, for one, can even stand here in this chamber, and secondly, have the honour of serving as now the Women's Union and Gender Minorities Officer, would have been unimaginable back in the early 19th or even early 20th century. And yet, women's involvement in democracy and free speech is now widely the global norm. The once unimaginable can, therefore, become the norm, and it can lead to a paradigm shift in how we see the world. Gender is something that fundamentally shapes how we understand the world around us day to day, as well as how we look at history. I have personally spent much of my time at Oxford as a history and politics student, studying the development of gender within historical practice. Yet, it took years of work from gender historians such as Joan Scott and Jean Boydston for the concept of gender to be considered even somewhat relevant to wider historical study, beyond simply the study of women and their lives. This, as well as all of the previous achievements I have listed, shows that change happens over time and may take forms we currently see as impossible. If, therefore, gender equality can be at least partially realised, or moves can be made towards it, why, therefore, can we not suggest that one day society may move beyond gender as a whole? To do so, I will argue tonight, would form the ultimate rejection of women's subordination, patriarchy, discrimination against non-binary individuals, and overall realise the goals of feminist and LGBTQIA+ movements throughout history. Removing the social construction of gender from our lives would bring about the end of discrimination on these grounds and allow individuals more freedom to express themselves completely outside of the binary gender that is imposed on us. As Emma Watson has said, it is time we start defining ourselves by who we are rather than what we are not. We should see gender as a spectrum and move beyond its influence in our lives overall in order to fully achieve equality for all people. Tonight, I will urge you to vote for this motion. I will do this first by looking at the theory behind such a statement. What basis can we find that the abolition of gender should be the ultimate goal of liberatory movements? Then, I will look to the harmful ways in which gender binary and roles have been enforced and continue to be enforced on the lives of individuals. I would consider the possibility of gender as potentially something liberatory in and of itself, before maintaining that, instead, gender continues to be something that can be used to restrict and oppress individuals. True liberation for women, people of marginalised genders, and indeed for men, will come, therefore, from the abolition of gender altogether to make a freer society. But first, it falls upon me to introduce the opposition speakers for tonight's debate. First on the opposition, we have Maya Hamilton, Nepo baby, chemistry student at New College and guest liaison officer. I feel wholly unable to give Maya a roast, not fully, given that she's the reason I may get the chance to breathe the same air as Julia Fox, and for that I am eternally in her debt. Although I wasn't quite aware that chemistry students had the time to come and speak at the Union, because everyone I've ever met who studies it assures me that they're all just so much busier than us humanities students. Second, we have Bronwyn Price, Present Sponsorship Officer and a fellow ex-LGBTQIA+ officer from St Hugh's College. I have to say, I'm surprised to see Bronwyn speaking on the opposition tonight, mainly due to the fact that I'm not sure I've ever heard her talk about much aside from the West Country. Did you know she's from Somerset, by the way? Thirdly, we have Jamie Windust, an author, broadcaster and model. They're a contributing editor to the Gay Times and have spoken at TEDx London. No matter the result of the debate, though, it is needless to say that I will be asking them for fashion advice after this. And finally, we have Patricio Manuel speaking forth. Patricio is a professional boxer who has been featured in BuzzFeed and elsewhere for his work for the transgender community, and especially for trans people of colour. Although, if he thinks the opposition will win this debate, he may be punching above his weight. Mr. President, these are your speakers, and they are most welcome. Simone de Beauvoir famously wrote in her 1949 text, The Second Sex, that one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Judith Butler echoed this in stating that masculine and feminine roles are not biologically fixed, but socially constructed. There is no gender identity behind the expressions of gender. Identity is performatively constituted by the very expressions that are said to be its results. Both of these quotes show that gender is something that is socially constructed and often imposed onto people. Individuals are told from birth that they are male or female and are thus socialized into these roles throughout their lives. Girls are given pink clothes and dolls and told that boys being mean to them means they like them. Boys are given blue clothes and toy cars and told they cannot show emotion or cry because to do so would be effeminate. Gender is clearly something that society imbues into us. But what happens when individuals don't identify with the gender imposed on them at birth or with any sense of gender at all? They are othered, they are oppressed, and they have their identity invalidated. Our current society's perception of gender thus arises as a means of control. Patriarchy is reinforced by keeping women and girls in their place, weak, feminine, powerless, endowing a sense of superiority to men, and persecuting all those who do not fit inside this binary. Women are paid less than men because of circumstances outside of their control, and often due to gender prejudices, despite laws against this. The laws, whilst they can influence social norms, cannot control them, and built-in prejudices remain. Surely there is a better way. Surely we should not be forced into abiding by this system that operates as a means of patriarchal control over individuals at all places on the gender spectrum. The acknowledgement of gender as a spectrum, I concede, is a significant step forward in widening our understanding of gender beyond this operation of control and of moving away from persecution of those outside of the binary entities of male and female. But why settle for accepting a system in which the oppression can still occur when we can move beyond this and escape this system of oppression altogether? To move beyond the system of gender would be to reject gender roles, the oppression of transgender and non-binary individuals, and overall allow individuals in society more a chance to freely express themselves outside the bounds of strict gender norms. Individuals would be able to wear whatever they pleased, present themselves as they wished, without any societal pressure to be perceived a certain way. No, thank you. The opposition will, no doubt, argue tonight that gender is a means of celebrations for individuals' identities. It is certainly true that gender as a concept has allowed for the advancement of women and people of marginalised genders, allowed for real positive material impact on their livelihoods. Feminist movements throughout history, for example, have focused on a celebration of women and of their equal standing to men by taking what was used to oppress them and turning that back on the oppressors. Individuals may feel a sense of celebration in their gender, and it's not in my remit to suggest they cannot. I love being a woman. I enjoy, wearing a dress. I enjoy wearing my hair long. I enjoy everything that comes with the stereotypes of it. And I'm proud of my identity as a woman. It helps me to stand up against the subordination of us. But this does not mean we cannot continue to strive to be better. The wording of this debate motion is very significant. The future is post-gender. The progress that the feminist and LGBTQIA+ movements on gender have made is best continued through the abolition of gender as a whole. Equality is best achieved when these differences can be completely overlooked. Concepts that were created as a means of oppression, like gender, must be overturned for the oppression to end. Whilst gender may, therefore, form a key part of individuals' identity and allow them to celebrate themselves, perhaps we should instead find joy in our own individual identities and expressions. We should find joy in being able to move away from socially constructed roles set out to us from birth and embrace the true spectrum of gender and identity by abandoning any restrictions on it whatsoever. The late bell hooks, a favourite author of mine, wrote that if any female feels she needs anything beyond herself to legitimate and validate her existence, she's already giving away her power to be self-defining, her agency. It is our individual identities that constitute our existence and give us agency, not any sort of social categorization imposed on us. And now I might be a bad feminist to some for wearing makeup or a dress or having my hair long or listening to ridiculous amounts of Taylor Swift, but these are the things that form my identity, not my existence as a woman. The solution for feminists and others is not to restrict what people can or cannot do further, as the gender binary suggests, but to fight these gender binaries and roles altogether and move towards a society where the abolition of gender is a reality. Only in this circumstance will we be able to truly have freedom for women, people of marginalised genders, and as I stated earlier, also men as victims of the patriarchy. So, I have argued that gender abolition is the only real route to freedom from discrimination. We can not only be freed from the grips of patriarchy and oppression, but also be able to express ourselves and our identities much more freely if we see the abolition of gender and its constitutive impacts on society as the end goal of gender equality. The future is post-gender if our goal is one truly of equality and of freedom. So, I urge this House tonight to vote for the proposition, to vote for freedom, and to vote for a better society in which we can escape socially constructed roles, where we can be who we are, not who we are expected to be. Thank you very much.